Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The smog hung thick in the air, adding a dull gray wash to the shattered remains of what had once been humanity's shining jewel, this city. Crumbling skyscrapers clawed at the wilting sky, their glass shards reflecting the hopes of the idle scavengers below. But not Ethan. He was a survivor, a thrill-seeker in a world devoid of luxury. While others grieved the past, he lived for the present, picking the bones of a civilization long gone. He crouched low, skirting around the jagged edges of debris that could betray his presence. Today felt different. There was a stirring in the air, an omen of danger that sent shivers down his spine. But curiosity won out over caution as he drew near to the dilapidated warehouse, a flicker of neon inviting the death wish resting in his heart. "They're back," he muttered to himself, remembering the tales of the Reclaimers, the relentless aliens that had invaded Earth, capturing not just their technology, but their very essence, harvesting it like madmen feeding off a dying world. He should have turned back, but the promise of untouched supplies lured him deeper into the shadows. Moving through the darkened entryway warmed by the faint glow of scattered LEDs, Ethan's eyes adjusted. The cold metallic scent of machinery, mixed with something sickeningly sweet, hung in the air. Rows of cages came into view, horrifying visions locked behind rusty bars. His instinct screamed for him to retreat, but the cries of desperation tugged at him. "Help me!" The voice, soft yet trembling with palpable fear, broke his heart. He turned, his breath hitching as he spotted her, a girl with skin that shimmered like stars against a dark sky. Her hair, a cascade of luminescent strands, framed a face filled with pure anguish. Nara, that was her name, though he would learn it later. For now, she was simply a plea. The way she curled her fingers through the bars gave him a jolt, and he found himself approaching her cage. "What are they going to do to you?" Her eyes widened, a mix of fear and hope swirling within their depths. "They plan to boil me alive, to extract my energy." A chill ran through him as he listened. In that moment, he became painfully aware of her vulnerability, the weight of her desperation gnawing at his conscience. I can't let that happen," he whispered, the words escaping like a vow. "Please hurry," Nara urged, desperation lending urgency to her voice. "If they find you." He glanced around the warehouse, absorbing the dark corners where the Reclaimers lurked. It was perilous, and yet the thought of leaving her there burned within him like a fire he couldn't ignore. He remembered the strength he had found in other survivors, what they had shared, what they had lost, and he couldn't turn away from her. He wouldn't. "All right," he replied quietly, determination sharpening the edges of his mind. "Hold on." Ethan scanned for a way to unlock her cage as monstrous shadows shifted outside, the sound of heavy boots echoing in the distance. Panic surged through him. Minds were cruel, but curiosity could turn the tide if he played his cards right. He reached out toward the lock mechanism, a jumble of rust and grime. With a deep breath, he focused on the task. Used the blade of a broken bottle tucked in his belt. Nara watched intently, her radiant gaze grounding him amidst the chaos. The sound of the lock clicking open resonated like a miracle. When the door opened, she rushed into his arms, their bodies colliding in a whirlwind of fragile connection. The frantic rhythm of their breaths intertwined. In that instant, their worlds merged, one of unspeakable terror, the other of unwavering resolve. "Let's go," Ethan whispered. Together, they plunged into the inky darkness, united against a fate that sought to boil away all that was pure and hopeful. But in this fractured reality, they were defying the odds, aiming to spark something extraordinary, a bond that could not be extinguished, even in the face of destruction. Ethan's heart raced as he and Nara darted through the labyrinth of shadows. The oppressive gloom seemed alive, closing in around them, but he couldn't afford to look back. The sounds of heavy footsteps and aggressive shouts echoed behind them, a reminder that escape was a fleeting chance. "Over here," Nara urged, leading him toward a narrow corridor that twisted like a serpent through the warehouse. Each step they took was laced with urgency, but the adrenaline coursing through his veins washed away the tinges of fear. The warehouse was a treacherous maze, every corner holding potential doom as Ethan pushed past debris and rusty machinery. Nara moved with a grace that belied her delicate appearance, her luminous features illuminating the path ahead, casting flickering shadows on the walls. "Do you know where to go?" Ethan asked, voice strained with worry. "I can sense a way out," she replied, glancing over her shoulder, anxiety flitting across her features. "They will not stop searching until I'm caught." He nodded, determination flooding his chest. If she could endure the horror of being boiled alive for her energy, he could push through anything to keep her safe. "What do they want with you?" he pressed, needing to know how much danger they were in. "They harvest our energy to fuel their machines. They believe that we are nothing more than sources of power, but we are more than that." Nara's voice wavered, cracking under the weight of her memories. "I am a warrior of my kind, sent to protect my people. They consider me a prize." Ethan's heart tightened at the thought of her being seen as an object instead of a living, breathing person. "You're more than a prize. You're alive, and you deserve freedom." As they rounded another corner, a loud crash echoed behind them, and Ethan knew they were gaining on them. Desperation clawed through his gut. "Can you fight? If they catch us?" "No," Nara replied, her eyes flashing with defiance. "I do not wish to harm them, but I can defend myself if I must. I prefer to seek peace over bloodshed." He admired that fire in her, dedication to her people and her principles. But as they reached a heavy metal door, Ethan's instinct screamed. This place was designed to keep them trapped. He pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit loading dock, littered with crates and rotting supplies that whispered tales of a time when this facility served a purpose. "Look," Nara pointed toward a window near the far end. "If we can get through there, we can escape into the alley behind the building." But as they moved toward the window, the loud footfalls grew louder. Ethan squeezed the haste from his body, spurring Nara onward. They climbed over barrels and crates piled high like a fortress, each movement swelling the tension in the air as if the world itself held its breath. Just as they neared the window, a gruff voice shouted, "They escaped! Find them!" "Ethan," Nara's voice quivered, fear creeping into her tone. "We need to hurry." With one last heave, they reached the window. Ethan shoved it open with all his might, the sound of creaking hinges piercing the tension surrounding them. "Go," he urged, helping Nara through the opening. Once she was clear, he squeezed through himself, just as the heavy footsteps pounded against the door behind them. The night air smacked his face, cool and fresh, a stark contrast to the stifling horror they had just left. "Run!" Nara shouted, locking eyes with him as she grasped his hand. With no plan, but sheer instinct guiding them, they tore down the alley, weaving between the jagged remnants of a decaying world. Ethan felt alive, propelled by the rush of adrenaline and fear weaving through the alley. They fled deeper into the darkness, the sounds of pursuit fading into the distance. After sprinting for what felt like hours, they collapsed behind a crumbling wall, breaths ragged and hearts racing. Nara's eyes sparkled with the thrill of survival, but her body trembled with adrenaline and the experience of nearly being captured. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, desperately scanning her face for any signs of injury. She nodded, though her gaze flickered toward the horizon, where the first hints of dawn crept in, reflecting in her eyes. "Thank you for saving me, Ethan. I never expected to find someone willing to risk everything for me." His heart swelled. "You're worth saving, Nara. You're a person, not a prize." A silence lingered between them, one filled with the understanding that they had shared the harrowing experience of fleeing death together. "Soon, we need to plan," Nara said, a serious tone filtering back into her voice. "They'll come for me. We must find a sanctuary, a way to protect ourselves before they send more reclaimers." Ethan nodded, determination flickering. "We'll figure it out together." As dawn broke, painting the world in gold, Ethan and Nara knew that their journey was only beginning, but together, they were formidable. Each step they took toward safety would also lead them into the heart of an extraordinary, uncharted bond. The sun climbed higher, casting golden rays over the wreckage of the city as Ethan and Nara found their way to a secluded spot, a crumbling building that had once housed a thriving cafe. The remnants of its past life were evident with rusting metal chairs and cracked tables scattered beneath a fading awning. Yet, it offered a refuge for two souls seeking sanctuary. "This will do for now," Ethan said, peering out from the doorway to ensure they weren't being followed. The alley felt eerily quiet, as if the world outside had momentarily forgotten about the horrors that lurked within. Nara's luminous features glimmered in the slants of sunlight, her presence breathing new life into the desolation that surrounded them. "We should find supplies and barricade the doors. The reclaimers will search diligently." "Let's split up then," Ethan suggested, scanning the remains of the cafe for viable provisions. "We'll cover more ground." With a nod, they separated, the air crackling with urgency. Ethan moved through the remains of the cafe's kitchen, carefully sifting through rotten vegetables and cracked jars in their futile attempts at preservation. The scent of decay filled the air, but amidst that, he spotted a few unspoiled cans tucked away on a dusty shelf. "Score," he murmured to himself, grabbing as many cans as he could carry. He had been searching for food in places like this for years now, but the weight of responsibility for Nara made him more vigilant. They would need to eat if they were going to face what lay ahead. As he made his way back into the main area, he found Nara sitting on a broken bar stool, her radiant hair catching the light in a halo. She was sorting through the remnants of the cafe, her delicate fingers brushing against a forgotten menu, reliving memories of a world before the chaos. "Isn't it strange?" she mused, her voice a melodious hum. "Once, people came here to laugh, to share meals and stories. Now it is just silence." He set down the cans and joined her, feeling the weight of their circumstances start to lift even if just for a moment. "I suppose it's easier to forget what was lost when you're just trying to survive," he replied, studying her wistful expression. "Surviving isn't truly living," Nara said softly, turning to meet his gaze. "There's more to existence than mere endurance. We must find moments of joy." Her words resonated with him, mingling with his own reflections. Ethan had spent too long hunting for trivial things, risking his life for scavenged items that barely filled his stomach. He had forgotten about the value of connection, of finding solace in someone else's company. "Maybe we should create our own moments," he suggested, a grin breaking through his seriousness. "We've survived together, and that's something." Nara smiled back, her features lighting up like a beacon. "Yes, we have, and it is a good start." With renewed energy, they spent the next hour organizing a tiny stockpile and barricading the door with whatever they could find. Nara's laughter echoed through the cafe as they made light of their dire situation, their bond solidifying with each shared smile. As they finished, Ethan found himself drawn to Nara's shining presence, the way her resilience turned the simple act of gathering supplies into a shared mission that felt forged in friendship. But it was more than that. There was a kinship blooming between them, fragile yet undeniably real. Once their tasks were complete, Ethan noticed Nara studying him with a glimmer of curiosity. "What will you do if we manage to escape this city?" she asked, her voice laced with genuine interest. He paused, considering her question. "I guess I've never really thought that far ahead. Just day-to-day survival." "Then you are missing the chance for dreams," she replied, a flicker of challenge in her eyes. "We must explore our future, not merely hope for it." Ethan leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "All right then. What's your dream, Nara?" She took a moment to ponder, her expression softening into a look of deep thought. "To revive my people, to teach them a way where we can exist in harmony with others, not of fear, but of understanding." Her passion ignited something inside him. "That's a big dream," he remarked, a hint of admiration in his tone. Nara shrugged, brushing it off. "I believe every grand dream begins with small steps, just as we are taking small steps now to build our safety." Ethan was struck by her fervor. "And what about your personal life? What do you want for you, beyond saving your people?" Nara's gaze softened, and a hint of a smile played at her lips. "I want to know what it feels like to love and to be loved without fear. To touch another soul in ways that heal us." In that moment, an undeniable spark ignited between them, something deeper than simple survival, probing the boundaries of an uncharted territory. Ethan felt it coursing through him, awakening feelings he hadn't dared to confront. "Then let's make that part of our plan," he said, feeling bold as he spoke. "We create a future where both survival and connection are possible." Nara looked at him, surprise flashing in her peculiar eyes. "You mean it?" "Absolutely," he replied, defying the fear that threatened to cloud his resolve. "I can protect you, and maybe together we can discover what it means to live instead of just survive." The air felt charged, and as Ethan stepped closer, he could see the flickering light dancing within her. He reached out carefully, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, the intimacy of the moment electrifying. Nara's breath caught, and their eyes met. A silent understanding passed between them, a bond forged through harrowing experiences, whispered dreams, and the delicate touch that spoke more than words ever could. But just as they were getting lost in that connection, a loud crash echoed from outside, shaking them from their shared moment. "They found us," Nara whispered, fear slicing through the delicate atmosphere. "We need to hide." Ethan grabbed her hand, the previous warmth of their bond still tingling between them as they searched for a place to escape the emergency they could sense looming large. "Over there," he urged, pointing to a small utility closet on the far side of the room. As they slipped inside and closed the door, the world outside faded into a distant roar. In the dimness, they could hear the approaching footsteps of the reclaimers mixed with their own rapid heartbeats, uncertainty and fear intertwining with the fragile hope they had built. Together, they huddled close, breathing in unison, the echoes of pursuit reminding them of their desperate plight. But in that darkness, something more meaningful blossomed, an unbreakable spirit born of alliance, a promise of something indescribably beautiful, and a fight for survival that now held a greater purpose. The utility closet felt like a sanctuary, a small bubble of safety amid the chaos outside. Ethan leaned against the door, his body tense as the tumult of footsteps grew louder, reverberating through the wood like a heartbeat. Nara stood close beside him, her shimmering presence a calming light amidst the anxiety that clouded his thoughts. "I can hear them," she whispered, her eyes wide as she strained to listen. "They're searching nearby." Ethan nodded, forcing himself to focus on their surroundings rather than the fear clawing at his insides. "We have to stay quiet. They might pass us by." Time stretched painfully, each second an eternity as shadows danced behind the door. He could hear the muffled voices of the reclaimers, their guttural tones filled with contempt and urgency as they scoured the cafe for any trace of their quarry. "Check over here," one voice shouted. "They can't be far." Ethan's breath quickened as he exchanged a worried glance with Nara. The uncertainty of their fate hung heavy in the air, a weight that threatened to crush him. But in the depths of his heart, he knew they had to keep fighting. Then, as if the universe was mocking them, the closet door rattled under the weight of a powerful fist. Ethan's instinct kicked in, positioning himself to shield Nara. Fragments of courage surged through him, igniting a fire in his veins. If they were going to face their captors, they would do it together. "Get ready," he whispered, crouching low, heart racing. Suddenly, the door burst open, revealing two towering figures, their alien forms glistening menacingly in the dim light. The reclaimer's skin shimmered with an array of colors beneath the peeling paint of the cafe, and their eyes glinted with a predatory hunger. The sight sent a jolt of terror through Ethan, but he held firm. "There they are," one of the reclaimers hissed, grinning with cruel satisfaction. Ethan charged forward, pushing Nara behind him. "Run, now!" He collided with the nearest reclaimer, driving his shoulder into the creature's midsection. It stumbled back, surprise momentarily flashing across its face. But as Ethan turned to grab Nara's hand, another reclaimer swooped in, grabbing her with surprising speed. "No!" he shouted, panic exploding inside him. Nara struggled against the creature's grip, her luminous features pulsing with anger and fear. "Ethan!" she cried, twisting to break free. Fueled by desperation, Ethan lunged toward them, his heart pounding in his ears. He felt powerless as he watched Nara's eyes harden, taking in her surroundings with fierce determination. "Let her go!" he shouted, adrenaline surging. "This is not the way." The reclaimers laughed, a haunting chorus that echoed off the walls. "You think you can save her? She's nothing but fuel for our machines." "Shut up," Nara hissed, the defiance in her voice startling both Ethan and her captors. "I am more than you realize." With a burst of energy, she twisted free from the reclaimer's grasp, launching herself at the other, her shimmering hair flowing behind her like a beacon of rebellion. Ethan watched in awe as Nara transformed from a helpless captive into a whirlwind of strength, her energy rippling around her. The first reclaimer regained its composure and charged for Nara, anger flaring in its iridescent eyes. Ethan sprinted forward, ready to defend her, but before he could reach her, Nara hurled a radiant pulse of energy toward the reclaimer. It struck with a crackling force, knocking it off its feet and sending it crashing into a wall. "Ethan now," Nara called, determination igniting in her voice. With a surge of adrenaline, Ethan barreled toward the reclaimer that had been distracted by Nara's power. With a well-aimed kick, he sent the creature sprawling, the thud of its body against the ground echoing in the chaos. But he knew this wouldn't end here. There were still more that would come. "Nara!" he shouted, glancing at her. "We need to get out of here." The world around them felt like it was spinning, but Ethan could see clarity crystallizing in Nara's eyes, a focus that spoke of their shared determination. Together, they moved in sync, as if they were two parts of a greater whole. They pushed through the narrow space of the cafe they had fought through, heading for what they hoped would be their escape route. Ethan shot a quick glance behind them. The other reclaimer was rising itself, its relentless hunger undeterred. "Nara, this way," he urged, grabbing her wrist and darting toward the back exit. Just as they reached the threshold, the pounding feet of the reclaimers echoed through the cafe, reminding them of the imminent danger still pursuing them. With a final burst of speed, they dashed through the back door, bursting into the warm embrace of the sunlight. The sight of the open street filled Ethan with both relief and anxiety. Freedom lay before them, but so did the uncertainty of the outside world. The moment they stepped outside, however, everything changed. They were met with a sudden blare of sirens, the sounds of patrol vehicles whirring through the air. "Ethan!" Nara shouted, pointing. "They have a perimeter set up." "I see it," he replied, desperation flooding his senses. "We have to find cover." They spotted an alleyway to their right and lunged toward it, desperation fueling their movements. Ethan's heart raced, adrenaline propelling them forward as shouts rang behind them. Their pursuers were relentless. As they plunged deeper into the darkened alley, they pressed against the cool brick wall, attempting to catch their breath. Ethan felt the warmth of Nara close beside him, her breathing rapid yet steady. "I didn't know you could do that," Ethan said, awe spilling over in his voice. You were incredible." Nara met his gaze, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of fear and thrill. "I have powers, but I've never had to use them like that. I just wanted to protect you." Ethan shook his head, fighting back the emotions swelling within him. "You did more than protect me. You helped us escape. That was amazing." For a brief moment, the weight of the world slipped away as they held each other's gaze. In their shared fear, they found an unspoken understanding, a bond that had blossomed in the chaos of yesterday. But the sounds of their pursuers grew nearer, snapping them from their momentary calm. "Ethan," Nara whispered, urgency lacing her voice. "What will we do now?" He took a deep breath, steeling himself against the fear that threatened to engulf him. "We have to find shelter, regroup, and plan our next move. We can't stop fighting now." With a shared nod, they turned and plunged deeper into the darkness of the alley, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. United in their fight against the reclaimers and bonded by courage, they knew their journey had only just begun. Ethan and Nara navigated the maze of alleys, their hearts pounding as echoes of the reclaimers' search teams faded into the distance. The air was thick with tension, yet a flicker of hope ignited in Ethan's chest. They had escaped for now, but the remaining question lingered heavy. Where would they find refuge? The alleyways twisted like a serpent, filled with debris and remnants of a life long forgotten. Nara led the way, her instincts guiding them as she turned corners with quiet determination. Ethan stole glances at her, marveling at the resilience she displayed even in the direst situations. "Nara," he said, picking up his pace to match hers. "Do you have anywhere in mind?" "Yes," she replied, her eyes scanning the paths ahead. "There's an old safe house not far from here. It's hidden, but I once found it." The way she described it hinted at a fragment of her past, a world where safety existed amidst turmoil. "Lead the way," he urged, his voice steadying despite the unease bubbling within him. As they pressed on, pockets of sunlight broke through the haze. They moved from alley to alley until at last they reached a dilapidated building, partially covered with vines that had claimed ownership over the remnants of what had once been a sturdy facade. "This is it," Nara breathed, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan surveyed the structure, feeling an unsettling mix of curiosity and caution. "Are you sure it's safe?" "It should be." Nara paused, studying the entrance where the old door hung slightly ajar. "Come, we need to get inside before they catch up." Pushing through the door, they stepped into the dim interior, where dust motes danced in the light streaming through gaps in the boarded windows. The air felt stale, untouched for years, yet it was a welcome change from the chaos outside. "Let's check it out," Ethan suggested, moving cautiously through the room. As they explored, Nara's joy began to surmount her apprehension. This place once served as a refuge for those in need. "I thought I'd lost it to time," she murmured, running her fingertips against the walls, feeling the texture of a past long gone. "It's perfect," Ethan replied, smiling at her excitement. "We can fortify it, make it our own." They walked through the main room, which had shelves lined with old books and a faded map pinned to the wall. Nara felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her, memories of laughter and companionship flooding her mind. "Here," she exclaimed, pointing toward a half-collapsed closet in the corner. "There may be supplies left." Ethan dashed forward, pulling open the door with determination. Inside were remnants of clothing, blankets, and canned goods nearly expired but still usable. "This is amazing, Nara," he said, gathering supplies. "I can't believe we found this," Nara replied, her eyes twinkling as she began helping him sift through the items. Together, they gathered what they could, storing away whatever looked beneficial. As they continued their search, Ethan stumbled upon a small hidden compartment beneath the floorboards, the hinges groaning as he pulled it open. "Hey, look at this," he shouted, revealing a collection of old weapons, from rusted knives to a couple of crude crossbows. Nara's eyes widened in surprise. "Weapons. This could give us an advantage if the reclaimers find us again." "Let's take them," Ethan said, securing a few of the most intact weapons. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. "We're going to need every advantage we can get." After gathering supplies and fortifying the windows, they settled into their safe space, exhaustion thudding against their bones. As the sun dipped low outside, casting a warm golden light through the gaps, the earlier tension began to dissipate. "Ethan," Nara said softly, her gaze meeting his, "thank you for standing with me. I've never had anyone fight for me before." His heart swelled at her words. "I'll always fight for you. You deserve protection and a chance to live freely." She smiled, that beautiful, radiant smile that made the darkness outside feel less consuming. "Together we can be stronger than they are." "Agreed," he replied, a grin spreading across his face. "We make a pretty good team." Nara moved closer, her warmth radiating against his. "The bond we're forging is unlike anything I've known. I feel alive with you." In that moment, the weight of their struggles shifted. The world outside was still dangerous, but within the sanctuary of their makeshift home, a new sense of comfort grew, a promise that no matter what lay ahead, they would confront it together. "Let's plan for tomorrow," Ethan suggested, his voice steady as they turned serious. "We need to find a way to gather more allies. If we stand alone, they'll pick us off one by one." Nara nodded, determination glistening in her eyes. "We can find others like me, others who refuse to be harvested. We can start a movement." Ethan heard the conviction in her voice, igniting a fire that matched her spirit. He believed in her vision. He wanted to be part of something bigger. "We'll find them, Nara. This is only the beginning." As darkness settled outside, the building creaked and groaned. But against the tumultuous backdrop of their new reality, Ethan felt a sense of warmth blossom between them. They weren't merely surviving anymore. They were becoming warriors in their own right. With plans taking shape and dreams rekindled, they finally allowed themselves a moment of respite. Laughter and conversation flowed easily as they settled into their sanctuary, the night enveloping them in a blanket of solidarity. Yet, uncertainty lingered at the edges of their newfound safety, whispering promises of the challenges to come. But for now, in the heart of a world gone dark, Ethan and Nara had found a light worth fighting for, a sanctuary not just of bricks and mortar, but a safe haven for their hopes and dreams. Days turned into weeks as Ethan and Nara built their sanctuary into a stronghold. What had begun as a refuge from the reclaimers evolved into a beacon of hope, attracting more survivors seeking shelter and camaraderie. Their little community blossomed under the careful guidance of Nara's dreams and Ethan's steadfast resolve. Every night, they held meetings, sharing resources, stories, and strategies. Nara's unwavering spirit inspired those around them, igniting the flames of rebellion that had long been extinguished. Ethan, by her side, fostered their training, teaching them how to wield the scraps of weapons they'd found, while Nara shared her wisdom about the different abilities that defined her kind. As word spread through the wasteland, a new mission began to take shape. "We need to strike back," Nara declared one evening, her voice rising amidst the gathered group. "We cannot simply hide. We must confront the reclaimers and show them that we will not be diminished." Cheers erupted throughout the sanctuary, determination etched across every face. Ethan felt the same fire kindling within him, feeding off Nara's passion and the fierce energy of those around them. Together, they would rise against the darkness that threatened their existence. "Are you ready for this?" he asked Nara one quiet evening as they stood on the rooftop of their sanctuary, the city sprawling beneath them, a canvas of chaos and ruin. "I was born for this," she replied with a confident smile, her eyes sparkling under the starlit sky. "Together, we are a force they cannot ignore." The plan took shape quickly, and their ragtag group became a blend of various cultures and stories, each survivor contributing their unique skills. As the date of their first offensive approached, excitement mixed with fear coursed through the community. Yet Nara's presence kept their spirits high. On the day of the assault, the air hung heavy with tension. Clad in improvised armor and equipped with the weapons they had painstakingly collected, they stood together as one, united under a shared banner of hope. "Today, we take a stand for our future," Nara shouted, raising her fist in the air. The group erupted into cheers, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Ethan stood beside her, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on his shoulders. For the first time in years, he felt part of something greater than survival. He glanced at Nara, who he knew embodied the heartbeat of this movement. "Let's do this," he said, his voice filled with resolve. The march toward the Reclaimer's stronghold felt both daunting and exhilarating. As they approached, the imposing structure loomed before them, a fortress of iron and fear. But within Ethan and Nara's hearts, they carried the embers of rebellion, a fierce blaze capable of shattering the darkness. When the Reclaimers spotted them, a cacophony of chaos ensued. Ethan and Nara fought valiantly, side by side, their movements fluid and instinctual. Nara unleashed her energy, stunning opponents and forcing the Reclaimers to retreat. Ethan, emboldened by her presence, struck down enemies with unwavering intent. But in the midst of combat, a figure emerged, one of the Reclaimers' leaders, towering and menacing, eyes glinting with malice as it advanced toward them. "Foolish creatures," it bellowed, its voice echoing throughout the battlefield. "You think you can overthrow us? You are nothing but pests." Ethan gritted his teeth. "We're not pests. We're here to reclaim our lives." With a surge of courage, he charged at the leader, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Nara followed closely, her energy crackling in anticipation. The battle intensified as they engaged the leader, each strike fueled by the memories of what they had endured. As the skirmish reached its peak, Ethan found himself locked in a fierce struggle, his mind racing with visions of hope, dreams for a future alongside Nara and the community they had built. With a calculated maneuver, Nara unleashed a burst of power, weakening the leader long enough for Ethan to strike a decisive blow. The creature staggered back with a howl of rage, and in that moment, their victory shifted like the tide. The remaining reclaimers faltered, hesitating as they witnessed the defeat of their once unbreakable leader. It was the opening they needed, and the shouts of triumph erupted from their ranks. Ethan and Nara stood united amid the chaos, their victory lighting up the horizon as the symbols of hope surged through them. They had reclaimed their lives, transforming their sanctuary from a place of hiding into a stronghold of resilience and empowerment. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Ethan turned to Nara, the beating of their hearts synchronizing amidst the echoes of their triumph. "We did it," he said, wonder painted across his face. Nara's eyes glowed with pride and joy. "No, we're just getting started." With laughter and cheers erupting around them, they found solace in each other's presence, knowing they had forged a bond that had transcended the horrors of their past, a bond that would guide them forth into the unknown. Together, they stepped into the light of a new dawn, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, emboldened by the promise that love, unity, and courage could conquer even the direst of circumstances. The world might still be dim, but with each day, they would shine brighter, and they would never stop fighting for their future.